Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2023 verdicts coming to you live from Nigeria. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
Good morning and welcome from Lagos. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
That's right. You could tell the atmosphere is really charged. For good, I should add. You're welcome to the show. I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
Oh, yes, indeed. And several agencies are doing what they can to ensure that we have a good elections. At least by now, everybody knows that that election is indeed going to hold. Well, as always, we'd like to start by reminding you that you can get across to us, get your voices heard through us via our social media handles, hashtag 2023verdict, 2023verdict at channelstv.com, and we're always keeping a tab there for you on Sunrise Daily at channelstv.com. So all of those handles for you to get across to us. So that said, look at the countdown now, everybody. The clock is ticking right behind me, and you can see that 2 days to go. That's the amount of time that we do have now for the big weekend that we're all looking forward to. So whatever you haven't had done by now, I just wonder what you're waiting for, because 2 days is like the next figure beside the 0 hours. So tick says the clock. Tick. What you have to do quick. You know what they say with that one. So all of that will be keeping tab for you. So we've got a lot coming to you today on the 2023 verdict. But let's start out with our news today bit. And speaking about the atmosphere being charged, now this group of people want to ensure that they rein in anyone who plans any nefarious, untoward, any activity that may jeopardize the process. The Nigeria police will not have it. So the FCT police commissioner, he will be holding a pre-election media briefing. And of course, as expected, this will be connected to the security arrangement for this year's general election. Of course, you know that there are high expectations of security agencies. We heard the CDS speak, and the police hierarchy have also spoken. The IGP did say a thing or two yesterday. The police command also weighing in on that matter in the FCT. So we'll be keeping tabs on that one. As a matter of fact, we'll be getting a lot more from the police this morning, but we'll have them on the program as well. So you could ask all the questions that you'd like to in terms of ensuring that you are indeed secure when you go out there to cast your vote for a start, guys.
Yes, indeed, Chamberlain. All is set, and the eyes of the international community are on Nigeria at this very critical time. You know, we've had a lot of meetings, a lot of engagements by members of the diplomatic corps with the INEC, the electoral umpire, and this one is what will part of what we'll expect today. ECOWAS observers led by Ernest Koroma to hold pre-election, that's the former president of Sierra Leone, I believe, to hold pre-election briefing. And this meeting may be to consolidate on plans by the ECOWAS to supporting peaceful elections. We've seen that led by the former Kenyan president, Uhuru Kenyatta. We've seen the European Union delegation also led by the former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki. And, you know, all of that groundswell of support for the commission and the concern for Nigeria, for Nigeria's success, gives you a sense of pride to be a Nigerian. But it also places that weight of expectations, you know, for the process to be smooth, free, fair, because Nigeria will be leading, should be leading by example, because what happens here, according to all of these observers, is very critical for the stability of the continent.
Indeed, as you said, we have the Commonwealth observation team led by
former President of South Africa,
Thabo Mbeki. We have the EU led by Barry Andrews, who's a member of European Union Parliament. We have the US election observation monitoring team, as well as now you talk about ECOWAS. So that's one thing to look forward to today. I mean, the whole world is watching, as you said, rightly, expectations are high. And we're Nigeria. The desire and the hope is that we deliver, as always. But take a look at this next one, something else to anticipate. This is coming from the political space now, the political parties. Yes, the APC the PDP, the Labour Party are to hold meetings at the National Secretariat. I mean, it's just 2 days to the elections, and yesterday we saw the signing of the peace accord, the second one, by the way, by the 18 presidential candidates. And yesterday's peace accord was essentially saying they will abide by the results, or they will accept the results and all of that. They will not be the ones to call results, and also haven't signed that second peace accord. We expect that the meeting by these political parties will be to finalize plans as they go into the polls on Saturday. It's not just you and I that will be that will be actively participating. The political parties have stakes. It's just beautiful to see how democracy works. All of those moving parts coming together, and we do hope that at the end of the day we have a good, very efficient engine to move Nigeria forward. More importantly, the driver, you know, is quite important. So that's something to look.
Just to be clear, that these meetings will be held separately at their individual national secretariat.
It'll be interesting to see them coming together. That's why I said meetings. They'll be having meetings at their secretariat.
And according to INEC's expectations, in fact, expectations of Nigerians in general, that they will demonstrate that commitment to the peace accord in both letter and spirit, because there have been concerns that past peace accords have been breached. So this time, we hope they will show decorum, especially their supporters.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Chamberlain.
Indeed, if there are people who thought that the National Assembly has gone AWOL or they've gone campaigning, disappeared from the scene, think again, because today, both houses of the National Assembly will be holding plenary session. Now, the House of Representatives and the Senate, they will be meeting, and part of what they are expected to consider will be the state of the nation. Remember, the current Naira scarcity, how hard, what do they think of what's going on in the courts? Then you'll also get to see, of course, preparations for the elections, security, and then they've been going about campaigning in their different constituencies. And so, when they are in those areas, of course, they will feel how the temperature is wherever they are. So they will be trying to decide on what plays out there. All right, so that's our news for today, bits for you. Let's take you through this particular matter. I don't know how many of you saw this this release from the Labour National NLC, Nigeria Labour Congress. So you thought, of course, they have a new leadership now. And then they put up a release, a memo, and they say, look, they just wish to refer to the resolution of the inaugural meeting of the National Administrative Council. That's the NLC having had that meeting. So that's the NAC now of the Nigeria Labour Congress directed their workers and all Nigerians to come out en masse to perform their civic duties by voting in the forthcoming elections and taking decisive steps to safeguard their votes. Now, the NLC say that they urged the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to ensure that the electoral processes are not only transparent and fair, but reflect the wishes of the Nigerian people. Now, they say this is a clarion call to all workers and working people that as we approach the final push towards the forthcoming presidential election come February 25, 2023, we should ensure massive turnout of votes, they say, for the success, guess what, of the Labour Party. And so many thought, wait a minute, are they still together? But now you have them saying that this was an earlier resolution of the National Executive Council of NEC. And so Labour Party throwing their weight behind the Labour Party candidate. So it's going to be very interesting. And look at this paragraph where it says, to accomplish these significant tasks to save our democracy, all affiliate unions and state councils of Congress are to give maximum cooperation and support to the political committee to strengthen their work at the state, local government, wards, and polling unit levels by ensuring that they provide at least 10 ward coordinators and canvassers to not only mobilize, but defend the people's votes. Whoa, there you go. So we'll be talking about this a little further today on the program. So that bit is out there. So let's go ahead now and take you through some of the dailies. Yesterday, all eyes were on the Supreme Court. They were wondering, waiting to see how will they decide. So take a look at the Guardian newspaper, the first of which we're picking up here today. Again, Supreme Court defers ruling on Naira redesign to after elections. Well, I guess did it take away the steam or anything from anyone? Well, it's Naira, so we're still going to be spending it before, during, after elections anyway. So perhaps to that extent, maybe some people might just think, all right, who knows? And then you get to see consolidate suits by 16 states, fixes March 3 for judgment. Await our decision. Supreme Court tells Abia, other states seeking to join suits. I think the court told them, look, you're late. So just wait after we decide. Who knows, whatever you want to do, you then decide thereafter. We are overburdened. Something must be done on Nigerian constitution. Judges lament. And then I think after that, there was the notice which we also saw saying that they're going on recess until after, well, maybe you need to look for that. We'll bring it to you moving forward. And then another writer here says, Nigerians left in the middle of the sea. Shehu Sani reacts. Cash swap riots. We are investigating governors over inciting utterances, says IGP. EFCC moves against vote buyers. Deploy operatives to states. FCT. Security atmosphere right. Elections good to go. Security Council. The president did call that Security Council meeting yesterday, so if you kept tabs on that one, you might have heard it or seen it. So it's all geared towards the big day, because we did remind you it's 2 days to the big day, which informs all of these headlines you see on the front page of the Guardian newspaper today. Guys.
Yes, indeed. From The Guardian, let's take a very quick look at New Telegraph. The New Telegraph also brings you that update from the Supreme Court hearing yesterday, but it pretty much captions it in an interesting way. Suit challenging Naira swap. Listen to this. Major setback for vote buyers as Supreme Court fixes March the 3rd for judgment. It's an interesting way to look at it, Kaidi. It seems like this has been decided upon already, that denomination approved by Mr. President in that weekend broadcast last week was indeed targeted alone at the vote buyers, the 200 Naira, because money is for vote buying is not kept in that denomination. I wonder if you agree.
Well, first, I don't keep money for vote buying. I do not know about the logistics involved. But I think it's important to also put it in the wider context. I mean, the president spoke about the security angle, spoke about economy. And all of that, you know, illicit financing and getting... I think for me, the
tackling
economy...
corruption.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, all of this can come under even the effect on the economy, I should say. So, yes, there might be that effect. I know that's what a lot of people focus on, and rightly so, but it affects people's everyday life. A lot of people can't even get on public transport because they do not have access to those notes. So yes, we could talk. I mean, it's just on March. I'm sorry, it's just 2 days to go the election. But there's a backstory.
Difficulty, inconvenience from the streets today. You know, but we'll not exit newspaper review. But all of that perhaps is too much to be captioned on the front page of New Telegraph. So let's just look at the other. Take a look at the riders. Use of phones at polling booths criminal. That's ascribed to the commission. So you can't take your phones to the polling booth on election day. Your vote is secret. Remember, it's an open secret ballot. Court fixes February 24 for judgment in suit stopping INEC from engaging MC Oluomo. That's the head of the Lagos State Parks and Gardens. It's contention over his role in distribution of election materials. We've deployed officers for election monitoring duty nationwide. That's ascribed to the Anti-Graft Commission, EFCC. And the last of the riders says, El Rufai buying votes with free transport, Medicare for Kaduna residents. Not my words, ascribe to the PDP, and I believe the PDP in Kaduna State. So if you are interested in details, you'll find them on pages 2, 3, and 28. But let's go above the nameplate to do, a quick recap of election stories as well. Blinken, why Nigeria's election matters to US. DSS police foil attempt to assassinate Osun speaker. That's an interesting one, especially coming days to the election. There's also a good development. We hope that the security agents will keep up with that. Polls, IGP orders movement restriction. So I hope you've stocked up on food ahead of that very critical election day on Saturday, and indeed the next 2 weeks. Remember, the governorship and state assembly polls are coming afterwards. And lastly, before we exit the Telegraph, court, why Imo governor, security agencies can't arrest Ugo Chinyere. That's the leader of the CUPP, I believe. And recall last year, his residence was attacked. I believe police operatives are closing in on the attackers. So this is a development, is now a court matter. Let's leave it there for the New Telegraph.
Well, Vanguard is next on our lineup, and take a look at what the paper has as its big story. Naira protests, governors under investigation for inciting utterances. That's credited to the IGP, yes, one of the big stories from yesterday. And he tried to, delineate the fact that they have immunity. I mean, governors have that immunity, but it says it doesn't stop the police from speaking to them, cautioning them if need be, and all of that. But see the writers, presidential poll hold as scheduled on Saturday. National Security Council says police, other security agencies ready for polls. The president had a security meeting, as you'll expect, yesterday. You see this one, INEC chairman briefs Buhari on preparations as Lagos, Ondo, Osun, Ekiti, others get electoral material. So this is the period you see all of those activities. I know Niger State also got, I think Kaduna State as well. So all of those materials will be landing, or should have landed, across the states. I'll be giving you, some bites of that today, so you know just how much preparations are going around the country. This one might interest you. Buhari Osinbajo support groups apologize to Nigerians, dump APC. So that's on the inside pages, page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. It's 2 days to the election, and you're seeing this one coming up. There's also that story. Obaseki lacks powers to order my arrest of Shomole, and Mr. and Mrs. is, of course, on the front page. I mean, just maybe give you something to laugh about this morning. You might grab a copy and see the banter between Mr. and Mrs. That's the Vanguard newspaper for you.
All right, take a look at Leadership newspaper next. 2023 polls. I'll be neutral as I was in Edo, Ekiti, Anambra, Osun, ascribed to PMB. You didn't obey previous peace accord. Abdulsalami tells candidates, blames party spokesman for violation. You must accept the outcome, Jonathan. Atmosphere rights for election, Security Council. So all of this you got from that peace accord, the signing ceremony that went on yesterday. And then AFCC also doing certain things. But look at this, guys. Just above this list story, Naira swap will refuse to be scapegoat, says Supreme Court. Whoa, was that the rationale behind that postponement? I mean, the adjournment? I think this will make an interesting read. It helps you, it gives you perspectives, so that you just see things from, okay, maybe not from a keyhole, but, open the door and see from a wider perspective. I might add that one. So, we refuse to be scapegoat, says Supreme Court. Wow, I wonder what informs that. But maybe when you do read the story, you get to situate it properly and see. And then EFCC deploys officers against vote buying. You heard the chairman speaking about this one yesterday as well. Hopefully we'll get to listen to him again in the course of the program here today, so that you can understand where the head is at the moment about what they intend to do during the elections, and perhaps ask questions too of, the previous ones. What's going on with that one? Did they speak about investigations? That's why you need to listen to that again. in case you listen to it in a hurry the first time out. And if you don't want to grab a copy and read the story, we'll get you to hear it as much as we can. And then they've got several other headlines here. PDP focused on rescuing Nigeria, not G5 governors. That's a quote from somewhere. You get to see that. Pre-Obi polls will cause post-election violence. APC campaign warns. Igbo leaders want votes, not bullets, in Southeast. So all of that associated with this lead story here today on the front page of Leadership newspaper.
And this Nigeria has more for you on the elections. Take a look at the headline. A big story. Polls, 48 hours to go. Frenzy, tension, horse trading across parties. Still a three-horse race of Tinubu, Atiku, and Obi. You find details on page 4. Well, frenzy, tension, horse trading, when you consider all of the challenges at this critical time, cash crunch, a concern about security, this may not be entirely wrong. But take a look at the big picture on the front page of this Nigeria. It's a very interesting one. Presidential candidates here, specifically that of the APC and the Labour Party in a handshake. And we hope that after the elections, when the results have been announced, the candidates would just be as magnanimous in victory and sportsmanly in defeat. But more political stories, just beside that big picture, the ADP, YPP, PRP, APM, collapse structure for Tinubu in southwest states. Well, it's not ascribed, but we hope that their supporters and spokespersons will not deny this. They'll affirm this particular story. But you know, anything happens. They say 24 hours makes a big difference in politics, especially Nigerian politics. Let me add that. Okay, Supreme Court to give ruling on Naira redesign policy after presidential poll. That's a page 6 read. And lastly, still on Naira scarcity protest. We're investigating governors over inciting utterances, says IGP. INEC chairman briefs Buhari on preparations as parties sign peace accord. Let's leave it there for this Nigeria.
Oh, well, Nigerian News Direct has this one as its big story. Naira redesign. Nigerians groan over failed online transactions. Yes, it's a bit curious to me that before now, a lot of people, I mean, you could transfer and just, you know, take it for granted. But now, you know what, I don't even want to go into that one, but it's just a bit curious. That
well, just to debunk some of the stories making round, you know, going about yesterday that during the elections there would be, you know, a shutdown of the internet banking system, so to speak, and Nigerians would not be able to make transfers. Right. The Association of Deposit Money Banks debunked that yesterday, saying internet banking services will still be available during the elections and beyond. And that's, you know, was refreshing to know.
So there you go. But the quality of that is a big question, because as I said, way before now, you could, you know, do transfers and all of that, pay with the POS and just take it for granted. You get the approval ASAP. But right now, it's really difficult. So is it as a result of all of the traffic that we're seeing? Is something off that we're not being told about? I think it's important to fine-tune that area, because a lot of transactions actually rely on the electronic means. See the riders, fate hangs as Supreme Court adjourns to March the 3rd. Filling stations, fast food joints reject online transfer. Oh yes, El Rufai deploys free transport medical services for Kaduna residents. I think that's one way governors can help in this, because a large chunk of the cash transaction people do is for public transportation. So that will help a lot. Buhari performs groundbreaking of Oloibiri Museum as industry stakeholders power project. So you wonder what to expect from that. I think that should also raise some sort of interest for you, because it ties back to our mainstay, and it also reminds us how we need to diversify as a nation. So I think it's a very deep one. And finally, you see this one, More groups, opposition parties collapse structure for Tinubu. That's Saturday poll. So this is a period of collapsing. We've seen for the Labour Party, we've seen for others, PDP and all of that. So, hey, what does that do to the credibility of those parties, though? I mean, because you've carried on as though you're going to go the long haul, but just all of a sudden you collapse. Let's leave it there for the Nigerian News Direct.
All right, so that ends it with a look at some of the dailies here this morning. But take a look at our story of the day. 18 contenders, presidential candidates for the February 25 elections in Nigeria have signed a peace accord. They're committing to peaceful conduct during and after the polls. Now, this speaks back to obliges presidential candidates and the party leaders to rein in their supporters to desist from actions that will threaten the peaceful conduct of the election. The candidates signed the first one for an issue-based campaign in September last year. An agreement members of the National Peace Committee say was not fully complied with. So we will focus on that as we progress here today on the 2023 verdict. We will be right back as well.
For the first time this year, President Muhammadu Buhari convenes the National Security Council meeting as the nation counts hours before Saturday's general elections. The Attorney General of the Federation, hours later, conveys the position of the meeting on the upcoming elections, sharing similar conclusions as that of the Council of State 2 weeks ago.
The Federal Executive Council meeting had taken place, at which meeting Mr. President calls the national chairman of the INEC to brief the council relating to the preparations of INEC over the election. The National Security Council are happy with the preparations on the ground, and wholehearted arrangements are put in place in that direction. The resolution of the council is to the effect that the elections are holding and there is no going back about it.
The Inspector General of Police reels out the President's instructions.
The specific instruction is that we must ensure that Nigerians are allowed to come out and exercise their franchise or vote the leaders of their choice. And for that, we must create conducive environment or atmosphere for Nigerians to exercise their right.
Responding to questions bordering on the open contestation of the president's latest policy by some state governors, the Inspector General of Police reviews actions taken.
We are investigating. Whoever does anything, he can be investigated. But for him to be prosecuted, there are people who have immunity. And I think that is some of the reasons. But that will not stop us from cautioning them and from warning them, from advising them, and we are doing so. Thank you, sir.
The Inspector General goes on to explain that the combined presence of security agencies in places like Lagos and Abeokuta is simply to install security order following protests that erupted over the Naira swap and Naira scarcity, and not necessarily targeted at the general elections coming up on Saturday. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Welcome back to the 2023 verdict. Of course, we're starting off with security here today, 2 days to the big day. And as you've seen there, we've got Mr. Muyiwa Adejobi joining us this morning. He's a Force Public Relations Officer. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Good morning, Nigeria.
I know you know a lot is expected of the police by Nigerians, rightly so. So perhaps we'll just start from how is the police preparing for these elections?
Well, like I always say, election is not a real thing. It's a process with phases. and generally is pre, during, and post-election period. So the police has been in the forefront of providing security right from the one of electoral or the electioneering process, party registration, primaries, congresses, up to this moment we are. So the police has been on is a civil responsibility, is a statutory responsibility to provide security for any election we have in Nigeria. Even local government elections, we are always there, let alone the general elections of this kind for presidential, National Assembly, gubernatorial, and houses of assembly elections. So we are fully ready. We have done what we should as a responsible organization to make sure we work with all the security agencies, including the military, to provide adequate security. We've done our deployment based on threat analysis we have gotten from our intelligence community, the FIB, NIA, DIA, all of them. We met and we have harmonized our documents to make sure we have proper deployment. We have known where we should have heavy deployment, where we should have light deployment, where we should have average deployment. So all these things have been taken care of. And I want to assure the whole world that the police and other agencies, they have done proper deployment to cover every polling unit in Nigeria, in all the 74 local government areas, and across the 36 states we have, including the Federal Capital Territory. So the police, like you know, we believe in the principle of 5 Ps. That is, proper planning prevents poor performance. So because of that, the IGP has done more in the area of training, because you agree with me, we have a new electoral act as amended 2022. You cannot enforce the law you don't know. So what the first thing we did was to make sure we take our officers and men through the amendments or review of the new electoral acts, so that will be in tandem with the present realities in the electoral act. And we started our trainings on 4th of August 2022 at the ICC, when the IGP flagged off training and retraining exercises for proper and better election security management in Nigeria. And this has gone around the whole 6 geopolitical zones. All our formations, the 37 commands and 17 zonal commands and other formations, we have almost 56 commands, formations, other formations. So we want to have that strong conviction that our men are going out, they have known what they should, they have the knowledge of what to do. And aside from that, the IGP has produced the election duty guideline. It's like a pocket notebook. It's for all police officers and other security agencies that are involved in this election security management. We have done a large number of it, and we are giving this to everybody. So we expect you to have it in your pockets, to look at it religiously as a holy book, either Quran or the Holy Bible or anything the African traditional religions can use. So everybody has this copy, and we expect every police personnel and other security agent that will be on duty to be apolitical, to be professional, and of course active on the field, so that we can have a seamless exercise on 25th February for the presidential and National Assembly election, and of course on the 11th of March for the other elections.
So we know that usually when there is a off-cycle election, the police has this heavy deployment in thousands, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 sometimes in a particular state. But now it's spread across many states. So is the police not going to be spread thin for that?
Not at all. We have, like I said, did a general election that we are collaborating with all other security agencies. Don't forget we have ISIS as Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. Yeah. And ISIS keeps on expanding on daily basis. Before, when we started ISIS, we were never having EFCC and ICP, all the anti-graft agencies were not involved. But when we noticed certain dimensions into election security management, these anti-graft agencies were incorporated into ISIS, and we know that it's not possible for police to have our men everywhere. So that's why all these agencies, and one thing that is sure is that at every polling unit, you must see a policeman, at least. a policeman to be supported by other agencies, or you see 2 policemen to be assisted by other agencies. So at least at every polling unit, we are expected to have at least nothing less than 3 security operatives to be at that very polling unit, where we have, immediately after that, the inner ring, we have armed men, armed to the teeth, that will be doing motorized patrol to give support to those at this polling unit who will know by law they are not armed. So the people who are on motorized patrol will give cover to them. Or the outermost ring will be the one for restriction of movement. So, the military, the mobile men, NSCDC, those who are going to be in charge of the heavy artillery that will take charge of this.
Let me see if I can go over that again. Now, on election day, at the polling units, for instance, if we were to start with taking a look at the polling units, because you've talked about the kinds of people that we should expect to be on those polling units. So tell us, who do we expect to see at the polling unit, and what kind of proximity to where the ballot box is?
Well, at every polling unit, the INEC officials take charge in most cases. Even if there's any issues, they are expected to call the attention of security operatives to it. You don't, let me, in the normal word we say, we don't jump. That, okay, we have seen this, no, you need to work with them and they need to give instructions. But apparently we expect to have active electorates. I call them active electorates because they are more than 18 and they have their PVCs. Inactive electorates are those that are more than 18, but you don't have PVCs. So if you are not active, there's no need for you to go out at all. You don't need to go out at all, let alone go into a polling unit. If you are not having your PVC, please stay at home. I'm sure channels are going to run everything 24 hours live. Or most of our media houses will run this thing. So stay glued to your TV at home, enjoy yourself. Don't come out and cause problems, because they are the one.
Don't even go and play football.
No. Depends on the locality you have, the area you have, but not to go and play football and block and cause problems for those that are on essential services. We've seen cases where they barricade the road, they're playing ball, people on essential services will not be able to go, there won't be thoroughfare for them. No, if you want to play football, you can just go to a place not to cause any problem or to hinder a smooth running of the electoral process. Fine, we are not saying you should not play football. But active electorates are those that we expect to see at the polling unit. Party agents are to be there. And those that have...
That's the inner ring now?
Yes, the inner ring. That's the main polling booth itself. So
but the officer that will be there would not be armed?
No, they're not armed.
So now there's another ring.
It's a 3-ring thing, a system. The innermost one, that's polling unit, not armed. The middle one, armed men on motorized patrol. They'll be moving up and down, at least to give buffer to those at the polling unit in case there's any problem. And these are commanded by assistant commissioners of police and the likes, because we have done deployments to take care of every local government. Senior officers, at least an assistant commissioner of police, be in charge of a local government. Where we are having almost 2, 3, 4, and it depends on certain areas, commissioners of police. So in a place, you may have 3, 4, 5, 6 commissioners of police to take charge. Then to be coordinated, a senatorial district and assistant inspector general of police. Then the whole geopolitical zone will be commanded by a DIG. So the DIG representing that zone will be the one in charge of that geopolitical zone.
Is that the 3rd ring?
No, I'm talking. So the 3rd ring will be basically for restriction of movement. Then and out, local governments, towns, villages, hamlets, we have done this deployment to take care of this, because we believe that if you have adequate restriction of movement, we are almost 80% successful into that election process. Single man cannot come to polling units and ask all of you to lie down and want to disrupt your electoral process. You are going to overpower him. So when they move in numbers, large numbers, in groups, that's when they can disrupt electoral process. So if you don't allow them to move in numbers, that's not how they want to do it. And we are very, very serious about it. We have given announcement yesterday, we made pronouncement yesterday, 12 midnight to 6 p.m. On 25th February, no movement. We know this might inconvenience certain people, but we just have to do it because so that we want to have full grip of this election security management. And for those who are on essential services, they know themselves. They are allowed to go out. Accredited observers, accredited journalists, people in hospitals, ambulances responding to medical emergencies, firefighters, and there are some people that we have considered that we might give a waiver to. Those that manage the websites, Wi-Fi connections, internet, and other places based on the request or consultation with INEC we have done. So INEC has given a list of those that might be considered, and INEC has gone ahead of it by even providing tax for them. The way we have done for our men that are going to be on duty too, everybody must be with his tag, including me. The IG has his own tag. Everybody will have his own tag. And this has been extended to all other security agencies. The moment you have been detailed to be on duty on election day, you must have your tag.
So
you
if we
your
see
position.
any police officer who doesn't have a tag, how should people respond to him? If he's asking them to do
I don't think it's possible. If you want to see anybody without a tag, maybe perhaps an escort to like the IG that is going on. And I even think all of them should have, because we made enough for everybody to have. So we're going to have almost every policeman.
Because, you know,
as we have the electoral duty, election duty guideline, that pocket book.
Yeah.
We have tags for everybody. Everybody.
So anyone asking anybody to do anything, the police person must have a tag. So
tag.
What about other security agencies? Should they have, they all have to have tags?
Everybody. So for your election duty
tag,
you must have election duty tag.
Okay.
Everybody that has been assigned or that has a role to play on election day must have a tag. Even if people should come out and cast their votes, we are good to go. And we want good governance in Nigeria. If you don't have good electoral process, you cannot have good governance. So we want all Nigerians to come out. Those are threatening us. They threaten you, they threaten security operatives. So we are all out for them. But you cannot overpower the government. It's not possible. I will not allow such a thing to happen in Nigeria, that a group of people or certain individuals want to run down this state. It's not going to work. So we're going to have these elections everywhere, every corner, every angle in Nigeria, and we are good to go.
And we hope all members, all officers and men of the force will have this sense of responsibility with which you speak. Part of the critical functions of the force is, you know, to escort sensitive election material, and I wonder, amid electronic transmission of results, also to escort, you know, partially a movement of results. So neutrality is also critical, and, you know, officers have been charged to be neutral throughout the exercise. So in that regard, Mr. Adejobi, talk to us about welfare of the force. What's it like? And if state governments are providing any form of welfare support for members of the force in the state governorship elections, if this will not impact in any way on the neutrality of officers of the force in the discharge of their duties in this election?
Well, I'm sure, you know, welfare packages go beyond just monetary things. We have taken care of so many things to protect the welfare of officers and men that are going to partake in this election. Starting from insurance, don't forget the IGP has just registered Nigerian Police Insurance Company Limited. That's going to take care of everything. So I can sell our lives and everything we have insured now with the efforts of Inspector General of Police. Aside from that, we have procured body armor, that is bulletproof vest, ballistic helmet, knee guard, ankle guard, and all those things that will protect that policeman that is going out there. And you can see that we have almost every state in Nigeria having APC. Sorry, APC now, not APC as a party. Armored personnel carrier to take care of our men. These are part of these good welfare packages the IGP has done. And of course, for election duty allowance, the president has been so kind enough to give approval to certain demands of the Inspector General of Police, and every policeman that partake in election duty will have his entitlement, even before they set out. As I speak with you, they have been disbursing this fund. The money will go directly to them. They are not paying to a commander or somebody that will be giving excuses at the end of the day. You give us your account detail, we send to you. And we have account details of every police personnel. So we have been doing this. But let me clarify this so that tomorrow somebody will not say, yeah, the IG is owing me 30 months, 25 months entitlement. No. If you are not leaving your state, your command or your formation to another state, you will not be entitled to certain allowances. There's what we call DTA. Digital allowances when you leave, for instance, leave Abuja for Nasarawa or Kaduna or Oyo or Ekiti to go and do election duty, you're entitled to digital allowance. But for those, if you are in your state and you are working in your state, you may not expect any special allowances aside from the general money the IGP will be sharing to everybody. So I think people, we have the nominal role of every formation, every command, zonal, state, and formations we have. So we are going to do payment based on this nominal rule. And for those at headquarters too, they are entitled to one or two things. I can even tell you that the IGP has encouraged CPs to make provision for feeding for those that will be working in various services. Like headquarters now, the IGP has approved money for us to chop. So if you guys from that can come and visit me in my office, I'm going to take care of you. So we have done a lot to make sure that we have a robust welfare package for our officers that partake in these elections. And so many other things are the pipeline. I think IGP is considering to do so many other things. Maybe after this programs are given approval to carry out certain things to make sure our men go to the field smile. We don't want any of them to be at the mercy of any politician or any big man at any village, anywhere they are. We don't want to say, all right, sir, we are here, sir. Your boys are here, sir. We don't want to hear that. They have been trained not to do that, and we hope that they will not misbehave. For those who are deviant, who may want to remain deviant, it's a normal thing in any society. We are ready for some of our men that are going to be deviant. We are going to deal with them decisively because we have mechanisms to check them. The monitoring unit is out, escort is out, and other checkmating mechanisms have been put in place to caution some of these men that might want to be deviant on the field during this election.
So no restriction of movement from midnight of Friday. That includes motorcycles as well, doesn't it?
Any means of transportation.
Any means whatsoever.
Even leg that is not accredited must not move. Leg.
So you heard. So be warned. So that everything, we have to make sure that these elections go very well indeed. Thank you very much indeed for coming on today. Muyiwa Adejobi, Force Public Relations Officer. We will be back in just a moment. Stay with us. Yes, indeed. Professor Adeliji Nodu joins us next. He is the chair of the CDD's Electoral Analysis Center. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for coming on today.
Nice to be with you.
Okay, so let's take a look at this information that came through from INEC. They like everyone to know and remember that there are 18 political parties. You've got 93 million odd registered voters, 1,491 electoral constituencies in the 774 local government areas, and then 8,809 registration areas. And then note this, 176,846 polling units. A lot of action, a lot of activity will be going on there, and that will be for 15,331 contestants. How many of those do you even know? That seems to be this huge focus on the presidential ones, and who knows? Well, Prof, good morning. Thank you for coming on again today. Well, I'm doing well, thank you, sir. Looking through how the preparation is, the build-up to the elections, we see different activities. In fact, at a certain point, there were some uncertainties. Even as we speak, there are several people who are still hesitant, not sure about how to approach certain things on that election day. So from your analysis, your situation room, what kind of scenario do you see here?
Well, I think that elections in this country, particularly these elections, in terms of the number of registered voters, in the 90 million plus, it requires a lot of national mobilization because elections have historically been viewed or regarded more as a continuation of war by other means because the stakes are high There are various interests involved. So, and it is something that is beyond the capacity of the Electoral Commission itself to handle. And I say that because election on such a huge scale require partnership between the Electoral Commission and various stakeholders to ensure a seamless electoral process, you know, and it's a very, very, very complex process. But I think looking back over the past 2 or 3 electoral cycles, INEC has made tremendous progress in preparing and getting ready for elections. And in doing that, they have also found it expedient to work with various stakeholders, particularly the civil society groups, the security agencies, and in fact, the ordinary Nigerians, to assure them that this is what is at stake, this is what we are doing. So I think if you look at all of that, I think we've made great progress towards that since. And I want to mention in particular the innovation that was introduced, I think, in 2015 or 2011, thereabouts, the Interagency Consultative Committee for Election Security, because of our unique situation. I also need to make one point, though, which the chairman of INEC made some few weeks ago, that if you look at the electoral, the voters, you have 93 million voters in the country. That is more than what you have in the whole of West Africa. In one country alone, taking is more than what you have in West Africa. And then you look at the size of Nigeria, our topography, our terrain, you know, areas that are only accessible by speedboats, areas that are only accepted by helicopters, in, for example, in the Mambilla.
And we all have to get results from those areas.
So in terms of the logistics and the operational requirements, it is not something that INEC alone can do. And then look at the number of ad hoc staff you require.
Millions of them.
Yes, well, but then, and then, so it's a lot of, and so it is a very difficult. So I'm just saying this so that the public can recognize the enormity and the complexity of the problem. But in spite of that, and in spite of the insecurity in the country that we've been witnessing over the past several years, I think INEC has done a relatively good work to assure the public. And in terms of assuring the public, I think it has to mention also that INEC has had in place since 2011. They've approached their task through what you call the project analysis in terms of project plan. You know, learning from past experiences, projecting, and analyzing what are the risks, what are the threats, what are the challenges, and what do we need to do. So all of that is very, 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 very complex. And then you have the large span of control, not just the headquarters, going all the way to the polling unit in a ward in the country. So that long chain of command also has some complexity in terms of effectively monitoring what is going on.
Okay. So, I mean, given our history, we've had this historically boisterous build-up to our elections. Yes. Even on election day itself, the dynamics are usually very different from what we've had over time as well. Yeah. But from your position, I mean, you've your wealth of experience and knowledge, looking at the big picture, how everything is unfolding, what would you say concerns you the most?
Well, let me put it this way. I think the 2023 general elections will be what you characterize as critical elections. And what you mean by critical elections is that they are likely to bring about substantial political realignments in the country. And that is interesting because what causes the realignment is because I think the elite consensus on which party politics since the 1951 general elections, the elite consensus that was emerging, built around the notion of regionalism, federal character, I think that elite consensus has been breaking down, and I think it is really broken down now. So you will have to reconstitute, find a basis for reconstituting that, because you need an elite consensus. There's no doubt that the elite consensus has broken down. You see it in the two parties, in the two major parties. You even see it in the other parties that I imagine.
So what caused that? Yeah, go ahead.
But what is also interesting about the breakdown of that elite consensus is that these elections are likely to be more competitive. So you have what might call a third force now, imagine. The Obi candidate, the Labour Party, the NNPP, they may not win, but they are going to hike off a whole lot of votes from the two major parties, because they are now posing a great challenge to them. So they may therefore have a very, very important effect on who emerges the winner.
So for these elections, and what about for future elections?
Well, for future, that's why I'm saying that trend, it may continue.
Oh, okay.
But we cannot really talk of tomorrow. But what I'm saying is that I'm not even sure.
For this scenario.
Yeah, but what I'm saying that looking at what has been going on up till now, it is likely that you'll have a major political realignment. Okay. What I'm sure of is that the elite consensus has broken down. There's no doubt.
Is that good for the polity, for the electorate?
Well, it is part of the unfolding of democratic politics, because it is because democracy is working that elite consensus has broken down, because there are possibilities that have not been put up by the democratic transition, and yet we have achieved some of them, but there's still more that we need to achieve. So opposition to that things can be better, It's not that all of you keep quiet. This is the big man. So you have that kind of thing. It is a function of our federal structure as well.
All right. Let's bring in our colleagues from Lagos. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you so much, Chamberlain. Good morning, Prof. I must just on the side commend your consistency, zeal. I mean, you're 80 this year. A lot of people might not know that, and you're still, energetic as ever. But, listening to you speak from your experience, you're welcome, from your experience and from, the trends we have seen in our country, just raises the question for me. Yes, for a lot of people, this is a big thing. It's a big deal. Young people, maybe particularly, but Nigerians at large. But there's this concern that has been raised, and it's about what happens after the election. I mean, there's a possibility. I think each of the candidates have, if you're looking at 18 of them, a 5% chance of victory. But I mean, if you streamline it to what people have called the front runners, 4 of them, yeah, you now say 25%. But there's still that 75% chance of losing. And I wonder for you, are you also looking beyond, the elections to when the results are released and how it will be received? Is that something that maybe concerns you? How have you maybe rationalized it in your mind, and how should people approach this, essentially?
Yeah, thank you for that observation. I think one has to be modest and agree that you really can't talk about tomorrow, because tomorrow is not here yet. You can only make conjectures. I don't believe in making predictions as a political analyst. I can look at conjectures and say, look, if this happens and that happens, this is what is going to happen. And also that we look at the problem from different lenses. What you focus on may not be what somebody else is focusing on. But I think after you've making that concession, you've given that caveat, I think we can say what can we reasonably infer from what we are seeing. And what I was trying to say, that there is an elite consensus has broken down, and that you now have third parties emerging that are highly competitive with the two major parties that we've experienced. And as a process of that consensus building, what has caused that consensus breaking down, what caused it? And if we can know what causes it, then we can then make some projections about what is likely to happen. And I would want to suggest that there are two important things that are likely to emerge. I may be right, I may be wrong, but let me just say it now in terms of, what seems to me to be a pattern that a pattern that is trending. One is that there is no doubt that we need to go back and look at the basis after the elections and the new government have been. We need to look at the basis for a federal structure, and particularly to look at the whole question of the, well, I will call it the federal character clauses in the Constitution, and how going beyond that, relate that to the power of the presidency, because I think the problem about this elite consensus broken down is really because of the plenitude of powers at the hands of the president, and the whole question of how do you hold the president accountable, you know, the role. So particularly presidential appointments, you know, how do you now do that in a way that will enhance the spirit of the federal character clause of the country? Right. In other words, how do you ensure it? The federal character clauses are important, very, very important. In fact, Kenya, some years back, borrowed that concept from Nigeria. And the African peer review mechanism says that the federal character clauses in the Nigerian Constitution is a very unique experiment, that concept that other African countries still embrace to ensure inclusivity in government, including even the gender issues. But the point also is that in our own experience, the federal character has been abused or misused. And I think the major point at this juncture in our history, the major point is the abuse of the presidential power the power of the presidency is very, very powerful in terms of the plenitude of appointments it can make, ranging from appointments to the Supreme Court, ministers, and so on and so forth. That how do we, and I think the Electoral Reform Committee suggested that what can be done is to look at the electoral system, adopt some form of modified proportional representation, where number of seats won in the National Assembly will be proportional to the number of votes won by political parties. So you don't have a party winning only 70% of the seats, of the votes, and then winning almost 90% of the seats in parliament. Right. And that you also need some form of power sharing ability. So the second thing I think is important that we need to look at later on is that this youth bulge that we are seeing and the interest that they have shown in the political process, how can it be sustained? And how will it cope with the federal character issue? Are the youth going to take issues not based on it is the turn of my ethnic group or is the turn of your ethnic group, but looking at the candidates, who is the candidate that is fit and fair, and then looking at issues irrespective of, because I don't see any ideological picture emerging from the youth bulge and the interest in politics beyond, no, we are resisting, we want to be more involved in government. But you don't relate that to the ideological issue of what should be the purpose of government, what should be the public policy in terms of its orientation and so on and so forth, which is something that has really not emerged in this whole process. Well, issues have not been debated.
Well, Prof, you have raised very important issues. I mean, the possibility of maybe power sharing. I know that's something that some have spoken about, but, you know, it looks like winner takes all in this case of Nigeria. And then the youth question, the ideology which you talk about. And, you know, when I talked about the percentage of, I mean, the possibility of those candidates winning, it's not as though to predict, but, you know, based on, I mean, dividing it by 100, if they're 18, that's just about 5% each, and if they're 4, that's just about 25%. And, you know, there's also the chance of them losing, which is why I was asking that, I mean, do you think from the trend we have seen up until today and perhaps to the election and afterwards, do you think that some might have difficulty accepting the result of that election, which was like the foundation of that question? Do you have those concerns? Because for some people, it might be win or win, forgetting that it's actually win or lose, and the probability of losing might even be more for their candidate. So is that a concern you have? And how do you think we should begin to, because yes, election conduct is big, but what happens after? How do you think we should begin to approach it? What kind of messaging do you think political parties should begin to tell their supporters and all of that? That's also another side to the question.
No, I think I'm hopeful in that regard, because if you look at since 1999, losers have gone to court and have abided by the judgments of the court in resolving disputes related to elections. And I think we've established that pattern. You know, no matter what we may say about the judiciary, we may not like the decisions they've made. We may not like they are deciding who should be voters by adding and subtracting votes, and now declaring that this is the winner, instead of allowing the electorate to do that. But that is a problem that is caused by the nature of our electoral politics, and the judiciary will have to intervene in situations where politicians cannot resolve problems on their own. In fact, I think it is because politicians fail to resolve internal problems that it eventually lands in the courts. But I think that is also good, you know, to the extent to which people, you know, but if people start feeling that the courts are being partisan or are not emphasizing technicalities over substance, then they will start having serious doubts about the judiciary themselves. So I think the judiciary has a very, very important role to play in, you know, in being seen as standing for justice and not standing for technicalities. Because if people lose that confidence in the judiciary, that will be the last thing for us. And I think we are getting to that level. But I think we have been lucky so far that even people who have been you know, like the governor, who was in power for 3.5 years, have been asked to vacate the position by the courts, and they've abided. And there's been no upheaval as a result of that. So I think I'm quite hopeful about that. What I am still not sure about is that looking forward about the future Nigeria that we want, and knowing that those between the ages of 18 and 50 years are about 75% of the voting population. What is in terms of reproducing our political class, as those who are there now are living, and the new generation is about what legacy are we leaving for them? And that is what I am not sure we are able to do, because I have not seen, out of the youth board, the involvement in it, I have not seen any vision of Nigeria coming out of it, other than just that we want to be included in government. So, and I think that has to be more a matter of, you know, how you now, you know, recalibrate the political system, our own political culture, and make it more ideologically focused than ethnic focused. And in this respect, I think it is significant for me that this whole period, the electoral cycle, no one has raised issues about Chapter 2 of the Constitution, because it is quite clear that and in fact, the Constitution of the country says specifically that political parties must, in their manifestos, reflect Chapter 2. But you have political candidates who are talking of returning the economy to the private sector. But Chapter 2 makes it clear that the state must be the driver of the economy. Nobody has talked, in fact, the other someone was even talking about the private sector controlling all of it, but you cannot do that if you want to maintain justice, fairness, equality, and because also of the imperfections of the market system. We are, you know, so we are not all coming to and that's the whole point, that, you know, this whole notion of that we are all citizens of Nigeria has to be questioned. Because
Prof, you're spewing out a whole lot of ideas, you know, in your commentary, and it's interesting. I'd like us to explore the point of power sharing a bit further, because of some of your suggestions about what could possibly happen after the presidential election. Would it be a possibility for the candidate, whoever emerges winner, to, you know, bypass the constitutional, you know, obstacle to restructuring? After all, they have all committed in one way or the other to, you know, the unity of Nigeria. And then you talk about the manifesto of the political parties. Would it be a problem, you know, like perhaps an ideological dividing line between and amongst the candidates in this power sharing possibility that could happen after the election results are decided?
You see, I think one of the paradoxes of our political system is that we spend so much money setting up committees to look at things. And the Electoral Reform Committee in 2007, 2008 made a specific recommendation about power sharing. It says that any party that crosses a threshold, it may be 10%, 15%, 20%, they must have a share in government. And in some countries, they do it. So that is why it is not just saying that, well, there is in the cabinet, you follow the federal character clause, and a minister from every state, an ambassador from every state, and so on and so forth. But what is important for power sharing is that going beyond that, political parties that lost elections can also, and contested elections, provided they reach a certain threshold of the total votes cast, then they must have a seat in the cabinet. So that they're not saying that they are forever going to be excluded. And that is the whole point about the plenitude of presidential power. They have the same problem in Ghana. And about 3 or 4 years ago, they were discussing how to limit presidential powers in a way that will make for power sharing, in the sense that all parties, the concept, and we've been playing with this for a long time in this, the concept of a unity government. We right from 1957, 54, 58, 59, when Baliwa said, let there be a unity government before independence. No, it did not, well, some joined, others did not join. But the whole point is that, let's find a way of, and the same thing goes for the powers of the governors. And I even think that the governors' our problem are much more with how the governors have used the plenitude of power they have to distort politics and to try and monopolize politics at the state level. So where options are foreclosed, and this all winner take all things is, and it goes back a long time to what the Atolius said, that in an African country where if you go by first past the post, simple majority, then there are certain ethnic groups that we never think of even having power at the side, because if you go first past the post, the majority will keep on winning. And that was part of the reason why the spread factor at the national level, at the presidential and governorship level, was introduced in '79 to make sure that the president has a spread, has a fair representation throughout the country. That is required. And it is interesting now that that issue is now cropped up again because of the breakdown of the elite consensus, where we now realize that it is possible to have a runoff because this particular competition election is very, very, very competitive. The second point you raised about ideology, I think it's very, very important that we go back to chapter 2, because this is being violated, the letter is being violated, and the spirit of it also is violated. Because it makes clear that the state must be the major allocator of social surplus, and that whatever it must make sure for equity, justice, and fairness. But for me, it is interesting that none of the political parties, and some of them are even violated it, making reference to it by saying that the private sector must be the leadership. When we know the private sector, the market is not free, and the state has an important role in mediating and making sure that we do not have the situation of two nations in one country. A few that are stupendously rich, wealthy, benefiting from state subsidies, and the majority of us, with no access. So we cannot say it is competitive. You cannot say the market is competitive. The same thing with access to law, to justice. How many poor people can afford to have a good lawyer to defend them in the court? And that is, so I think it also goes to the question of justice, this ideological spread. So that, and what people fought for in the 80s against structural adjustment was that it is now coming back in terms of, say, and when you do that, what you're having is that we'll have local entrepreneurs who are merely serving as proxies for external ones.
Well, what a place to let it go. In fact, that's why it is all the more important how we consider the narrative when some people say, well, you don't need certain areas, you don't need to win certain areas to become president. So those are very important conversations and things that we need to factor in moving forward, such that that principle that was introduced in 79 also achieves the purpose, because there was a purpose for which it was introduced. Well, Prof, sadly, we'll have to let it go at this point, but this is a matter that we will need to consider in the days ahead moving forward, such that we can give it the pride of place and mainstream these kinds of narratives. So we sincerely appreciate your perspectives and time this morning, Professor Adele Jinodi, who is the chair of the CDD's Electoral Analysis Center. Thank you very much indeed for coming on, Prof.
Thank you. It's always a great pleasure to be at your channels.
All right, sir.
Thank you.
We will be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Security-wise, we've been able to crime up this country in terms of threat analysis, in terms of what we expect, what we need to do during, before, and after the elections. And the military have also pledged their commitment to support the process by providing the needed support at their own level, which requires different kind of assistance in terms of, because they may not be actually policing the election, but they are to ensure that no adversary, by whatever means, come out to disrupt the process. The INEC has also told us that it has everything in its custody. The Chief of Air Staff has confirmed his continuous commitment and support in making sure that where his assistance is needed, everything that requires his assistance in terms of deployment of materials will be done. So also the Chief of Naval Staff, who is going to give the same support in the riverine area, and we on our part are going to provide security, like I briefed this press sometime last week, that we expect we will be able to cover every polling station in this country with our men, and we also expect to provide a motorized patrol to ensure that no adversary come to, by any way, distract the electoral process.
Every vote counts. Every moment counts too. Get front row seats to Nigeria's biggest elections yet, with round-the-clock coverage by our super reporters across the country, bringing what may be our closest election even closer to you. Watch the 2023 verdict, only on Channels Television.
All right, welcome back to the 2023 verdict. And as you've seen there, Olawale Okunoye joins us next. He is the chairman, Contact and Mobilization, Special Duties for Labour Party. He's also head grassroots mobilization for the Obi Dati Presidential Campaign Council. Good morning. Thank you for coming.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here, Chimbali.
What a time it is for you, your party, the movement. You still call it the movement?
It's a movement. It's a movement more than a party, beyond a party at this point.
How is the movement moving now?
Well, greatly. Organic support, massive youth endorsement, workers endorsement, ethnic nationality endorsement. Massive, huge. It's a vision that started in 2017, you know, that we needed a credible alternative from the behemoth and the Leviathan, and that we needed to reclaim Nigeria through that platform, and it has come to fruition. So today you see the support massive. If you conduct an election today, Labour Party will win.
You think that this organic support and what you speak about is sufficient?
Yes.
To ensure Labour Party gets victory?
Yes, very sufficient, because some of us who are also veterans in this business have structuralized that organic support. We have built the layer of support that is structural, not just, we have also structured it in such a way that they are on the ground, they are in the grassroots.
But when you say you have structured this...
Yes, to be, because they say that we don't have structure.
Yeah, I get the point. But the thing is, isn't it also a truism that for lots of people who are involved in this structure, which you speak about, having structured it, as you describe it, is a first real experience for lots of them at this stage, in terms of, compared to other political parties, maybe the other ones have been there before. So how much of that can they rely on, saying, well, we will get victory because of what we've done, having not been there before?
Oh, no. You see, life is a school, and experience is the school teacher. But those of us who are really experienced have come over 3 decades doing this business, knows what to do, and we have done it. You find even those that you say are inexperienced or have not participated in politics, holding the polling unit at this point. Go to any polling unit in Nigeria. You find those that you say are fresh. They are holding, building structure, showing presence, showing visibility. It's massive. This is a revolution, as far as I'm concerned. It's not through the guns or weapons, but through the ballot. And the Nigerian people are ready. And though they are building that structure and the polling unit, I am amazed by what the kind of things I have seen done at the polling unit and at the world level for people who are said to be fresh.
So should one be, should you or people who are involved in the same scenario with you, should they be overtly optimistic or cautiously optimistic, considering that, look, in our policy here, anything can happen?
Well, cautiously though, but then we are doing our work. That makes us to do our work more. Even today, we are at work, getting in touch with all the structures and all the layers, building further layers, what Professor Tomi would call layers of redundancy or something like that. We are building more layers, even now, because you can't know who will sell out. So you build another layer so that if this is compromised, this work. So we are cautious. It enables us to do the work so that we are not just, we have been taking things for granted that we have won. So the work is ongoing. As I speak here, national mobilizers are meeting all over the country, meeting with their people at the polling unit, setting up the structure. People are being trained, etc., getting prepared so that nothing untoward happen to us, and it will not happen the way we are going.
You are in charge of contact and mobilization.
Yes.
And then at the grassroots.
At grassroots mobilization.
So you have a lot of information and detail in terms of what to expect on that day.
For sure.
Now, we also do know that for these other political parties who've been there, done several things, how they handle their party agents is key.
Oh, yes.
How is Labour Party approaching this?
Oh, a lot of training, capacity building. We started that about a week ago. Capacity building, because knowledge is power. We have to proceed from an informed. It's not about money for us. It's about knowledge, building appropriate knowledge, training our people, and also inspiring them with what to see come after we must have won in terms of what kind of governance structure we want to build, inclusive governance. So we are trying our best to make sure that our people are motivated, and we are also going to capacitate them.
And speaking about motivation,
yes.
We've heard different politicians say, not that I want to subscribe to it, that some of them say that what money cannot do, more money can do. Some say, when you see some people who tell you it's not about money, they haven't seen the kind of money that they think is money. And so when the rubber hits the road for a lot of people, can you actually vouch and say, look, our people are organic. They are here to do what they've been trained to do. And so when they see any kind of money, that won't face them. Can you really say that?
The Nigerian people...
I mean, for your party agents.
Yes, Nigerian people gathered in our party because there are power centers converging in Labour Party. That you see what NLC did just yesterday, giving directive to all the workers. That's another layer to show you work. But then money, yes, money is important, and we are going to spend it wisely. We are going to deploy it wisely. We don't have that kind of...
Have you been deploying it?
Oh, yes. We have been for logistics.
I thought your party's slogan, your candidate's slogan is, they don't give shishi.
We don't bribe, we don't induce, we don't bribe, we don't corrupt people with money. But we definitely, coming to this studio myself, I put petrol inside the vehicle now.
So the party agents and some of them will need petrol?
They will need to be supported logistically, to be supported. And that is reasonable. This is a capitalist society. I mean, there is nothing that is free. There is no free lunch. They will need to be supported wisely, but we are not going to induce voters or induce or bribe anybody. So you know, a presidential candidate is averse to that.
So what does it support?
We spend money. We definitely spend.
How is it support?
And we have got this money from Nigerians. Enormous support. We have got it, but in deploying it, we'll deploy it wisely, appropriately, and judiciously. Because we also have to retire what we are deploying. So we want to have result. It's not the same. We have played youth politics. I was involved in the process from 1998, for instance, 2003, 2006. So I know how these things are done. But in this case, it is different. It's a movement politics where the people have taken ownership of this party. It's beyond obese, beyond leadership. It's beyond all of us. So therefore, we must do what Nigeria wants.
Could you be a little more specific?
Nigerians are the ones supporting with their 10 kobo, 2 kobo, with their blood, with their sweat. So it's a revolution.
So tell us then, let's understand it a little further. How is this support going to play out in practical terms?
Yeah, in practical
How
terms.
are you going to support the people? What did you mean when you say you will support them and mobilize them?
Oh, definitely.
How
what
exactly?
It means is that we are going to get facilities.
Are you going to buy gift items for them?
No. Facilities. If you have to hire a vehicle to do stuff, we will hire it. To move around, we will do that. If you have to fuel, we will fuel. If you need to get laptops to be able to, we will do that. But however,
so what if
Nigerians on their own,
if I need to drink tea or something,
well, if it is necessary for your welfare to sustain you, why not? You can drink water and take refreshment. Why not? To sustain you, your humanity, we will do that deliberately from the center. But then we know that Nigerians by themselves are ready to bring the resources on the table, and they are doing that. Private individual is just like I am from the Awo Political Academy, for instance, and we have it culture at that level. It's like the action group of those days, where the people came, the farmers, the peasants came out to put money in. Awo didn't have money at that time. He didn't have money, but they put money in, they put resources, and they took ownership of the Southwest Nigeria, and that was why Awo was able to develop Southwest, because he couldn't have done, differently from what he told the people.
But did you see any video or material circulating on social media about how they thought that the Labour Party was not supporting them as they were, so they wanted that support to happen? This kind of support, which I think you're talking about now. Have you seen it?
I saw that video. Those elements may be disconnected from the leadership of their party in their state. And I think that's them.
Did you reach out to any one of them?
Oh, yes. We have asked the leaders there. I spoke with one of the leaders there this morning. And they said they are taking care. As a matter of fact, they had training for I'm not sure those people went to that training. So it's information, and they'll get back to them. We are doing what we need to do at the grassroots. I am aware that in that same data, there was a massive training for all the polling agents and canvassers. And so I'm not sure whether and information was passed as to what we will do, how we capacitate our agents and volunteers.
Let's bring in our colleagues from Lagos.
Right. Well, Mr. Kuni, just to be clear then, the natural follow-up would be, so what is the state of, I think the term used in your circles is mobilization, logistics support. What is the state of logistics support, particularly for your agents who will be doing a lot of work that day? In fact, some would say the success or otherwise of your campaign really rests on their role on election day. So what's the state of that mobilization? Have you been able to ensure that resources are available for all of them? What percentage would you say you have gone so far?
As at last night, that is set and that has been perfected in terms of logistic support. The national chairman of the party is on top of that, and I was privy to be with him. So all agents of the party already are aware, or by now should be aware what comes in terms of logistic support of facility, etc. And that is set. There is no problem with that. 100%. 100% that is set. And I know that some have already been touched in their various localities by what we have done. Nigeria is huge. Nigeria is not just a monolithic setting. We have various component parts. And so we are devolving that logistics from the center to everywhere. And by 12 noon today, everything should be set for our agents, for our volunteers, for our canvassers, for our scouts, and other supporters who will be at the polling unit to ensure our victory and to defend our victory.
So anyone who's going about saying, well, they've not gotten mobilization, they've not been adequately provided for, you're saying that that person perhaps is disconnected, is not saying the truth based off what you're saying. Over 100,000 of your agents have been mobilized, according to you.
Yeah, sure. That is set for now. Yesterday, that was concluded. People, information dissemination, people will get whatever belongs to them directly. The capacity is to the polling agent directly, not by proxy. You get it, what belongs to you, and you use it to work. It's for work. It's to capacitate work. It's not for inducement. It's not for you to be bribed. So they have that. As at last night, everything has been perfected as far as mobilization of agents are concerned, and we have 48 hours to go.
Right. So how are you handling the, well, so-called Naira crunch? There's difficulty for a lot of people getting access to new Naira notes. I mean, the CBN says it is stepping up work in that area. So how is that affecting this mobilization? Because I can imagine if the average Nigerian says it's hard to even get cash to use public transport, that should also apply to you as well, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody's affected by this scenario, but we are finding a way out of that. What you call transfer can suffice, but then it will still affect at the grassroots. But we'll find a way out. That's not for the TV. We'll find a way to deal with that challenge. It's a challenge, but we will be ingenious enough and to deal with that at our level. It's affecting everybody, particularly at the grassroots. You may not be able to take public transport, but we devise a means. But the logistics are set and everything perfected as to capacitate our agent in the entire polling unit where we are present. And thank God today we have parties, political parties, who have also joined us and are joining forces, to what we are doing in terms of support at the polling unit level. Right. They are also going to devolve or deploy their agents to be able to support our efforts at the various polling units. So we are going to devise a means to get out of. It's a real challenge coming at this, but it's good because money and corruption will lose its efficacy at this point. It will lose, but I know also that the behemoth and the Leviathan in APC and PDP are also starching money, you know. But then Nigerian people are alert and vigilant, and they will deal with all that.
So perhaps that's where we should pick it up from. You talk about the, you know, practice in the other political parties. Let's assume that that will be the case on election day, that there would be vote buying. How do you think it's going to affect, you know, your support base and the votes that you intend to scoop in this election?
Well, for me, where there is a will, there is a will. Where you are popular and the Nigerian people are vigilant, vote buying itself will be dealt with. It won't be something that you can freely do. Given our popularity and the Nigerian people, they will resist it. But however, the Nigerian security forces have also assured the EFCC that that will not happen. But for our forces, we are going to make sure that, because where you are popular in a polling unit, it will be difficult for people to buy vote. Even when they take your money, they will not vote for you. And if you want to do it by force, they will resist you. You know, so the critical thing is for us to be popular at every polling unit. The Nigerians are even wiser, and I know that where they take money, which belongs to them, they will still do what they want to do, because enough of suffering in the last 8 years.
So,
in
Mr.
the last
Kuni,
16 years, you know,
Mr. Kuni,
since the inception of democracy.
So you're restating the Labour Party's disposition on this platform, as you say in your parlance, that the Labour Party is not going to give shishi in this election for vote buying.
We know they take, we know they give shishi. We will not give shishi, because why should we do that? If we do that, it means that we are going to put investors, businessmen in power who will come and take over the entire resources and use it for their personal. We are not trying to do highest money back politics again. We are saying that is in the past. We are saying highest bidder in politics is in the past. We want credible alternative to be able to give us inclusive governance that will reclaim Nigeria for the Nigerian people. So we are not going to give anybody shishi, because we know they take by ourselves. We know they give, and so we know go give shishi.
And just before we leave your plans and preparations, Mr. Kuni, you know, while you're hard at work, the opposition may have been spying on you, and they say that you still do not have the structure to pull off that constitutional requirement to win the election, because according to them, what you have in, you know, the polling units across Nigeria is just a paltry 140,000, and that, you know, what is also absent in your campaigns is, you know, the presence of senatorial, House of Reps candidates, governorship candidates, which should be, you know, the mobilization point in all the local government areas in the state to provide you votes. So as a result, there's no place even for your presidential candidates to win this election. How do you respond to this?
That is an assumption that is fallacious, because the people are the structure. And the voice of the people is the voice of God. Where you have 100 million poor people, you know, in a country, and you say they don't have structure, you know, that is the structure of the Labour Party. And the people are hungry, sufficiently hungry, to resist every circumvention or corruption that this so-called, well, because when you say senatorial candidate, it's about public fund, public finance, starch fund, stolen money, which they want to use to induce people. And the people said, we have had enough of that. So the structure that you need is in the polling unit for the Nigerian people to stand and be vigilant and resist any corruption. That is the point we are making. Yeah, that is the point. And the people sufficiently, under the leadership of the Labour Party, are ready to do that. Instructions have been given. And you say 140,000 polling units. I just told you. Now there are other parties who are already filling the gap in area where you may think that we don't have polling unit agent. And beyond that, where we don't have, we have canvassers where we have not been able to feed. We say 170, it's 170. We have people who are Nigerians who have been enlightened to resist. So we have the structure. We have every Nigerian that is obedient. Is our polling unit agent. So that's the point we are making.
So, Mr. Kunin, are you suggesting that if there were, INEC says 176,846 polling units in this country?
Yes.
So I think I heard somebody say from your party that you have about at least five persons per polling unit.
Canvassers.
Canvassers.
And then you have a polling unit. Under my leadership, I have built all this. We have built that structure.
So does that mean that you have, you will likely have about, what, 884,000, about 230 canvassers and agents altogether, if you're to have 5 per polling unit?
Oh, definitely we have 5 public canvassers, and we have polling unit coordinators. We even have scouts, 5, to go around. So what will be the work of the polling unit? To sign.
To go around or to be on each polling unit?
To be, yes, to go around.
So how many do you have to be on each polling unit?
Each polling unit, in terms of canvassers, not agent now.
Okay.
We have 5, solid 5. And then they are you have support groups, you have the PCC, you have from all sectors. We have an inclusive 5 canvassers. We have people who are, they are undercover, who are scouts, who are watching, who are very watchful and vigilant. They are also there. And then you have a coordinator at that point, different from the polling unit. So Nigerians are fully mobilized under the leadership to resist any untoward act. And so we are prepared for this. We have been involved in the past with setting up even the APC. I mean, you are aware how APC was set up. From the Mega Summit movement to CPC to APC. And we're involved in all that and we have brought president to power in this country, So what we say that, look, what you have done is wrong. You have deceived Nigerian people. And therefore, we are going to create a platform that will oust
So do you think that your party candidate will win these elections? And if yes, is it going to be first ballot? Would there be a second ballot? What are you finding from your situation room?
Well, my optimism tells me that first ballot, straight.
Optimism, or from the point of your analysis in your situation?
Analysis gives me that optimism. And that I've analyzed, the level of work that we have, hard work, that some of us are putting, inform that optimism that first ballot. You will be shocked by 12 noon when you see the Nigerian people.
12 noon when?
On Saturday, it will be clear
that
we have won.
12 noon on Saturday?
I am telling you what I have analyzed. By 12 noon, you will be clear. The Nigerian workers, all of them.
But Mr. Kunin, voting is supposed to end by 2:30.
Some of us will know.
By 12 noon?
By 12 noon, we will know what has happened. You will know that we have won. It may not be official, but you will know now when there is a trend, and you are a Labour Party, and you will know that all these people are obedient. Well, by 2:30, that voting ends. It's just to pull in, but you will know. If you are in a polling unit, for instance, and you see the trend, and you have an agent, you have canvasser, information would have come to all of us.
What if by 12 noon is only 40% of the people that have voted?
Well, that would mean some challenge at the level of INEC, because we expect that by 12 noon, voting would have ended. If people, but with the enthusiasm that we have seen, 8:30, you start at 8:30. Yeah. What will they be doing?
And by
500?
2:30, yes. If there are still people on the queue, they will be allowed to vote.
In my polling unit, what has happened so far is that with 3 hours, it's clear. People, you just have to delay. The presiding officer and the INEC official will just be playing because people would have voted.
Okay, now maybe I'm missing something. So could you go down memory lane and tell us, has there been any president in this country in recent history, given his democratic experience, that knew that they had won the elections or it was clear by 12?
Not officially, what I've told you, but I would have known. I would have known Knowledge is about information that comes. But officially, well, you have to wait for the declaration of the result. When I say so, I'm cognizant of the fact that even official result may not be pronounced, by 12 midnight on that day. But I say with what I have seen, the enthusiasm for people to go and vote and the kind of trend, by 12, some of us who are doing this work, we know that.
But do you talk to your supporters, or does the party talk to them to ensure that, like every other person, they're expected to conduct themselves decently? Because if, for instance, they hear you now say that by 12 noon, you would have known that they would have won. But you also know that realistically, those results may not be announced even by 2:30 or 4. It might even take 2 days later. No one knows
when it
will be announced. Now, not what you want to compromise, for the result to be announced.
Yeah, officially.
Official announcement of the results,
yes.
which will only be by INEC.
Yes.
So if people expect that they ought to have won by 12 and then they wait a day or two, chances are that they could be apprehensive or cautious, anxious or something, and
definitely.
They may react in a certain way.
Definitely.
So you tell them to ensure that they conduct themselves decently all through.
No, peacefully. We have said that. I am just saying to you that some of us who are doing this work, who have known in the past, who have done this thing, I mean, we are not new in this business. We know when elections, and we know when there is an official delay to, we know, we have structures everywhere. But we have instructed and given directive to our people. Be peaceful. Please make sure that you do not allow anybody to spark any dispute through you. Avoid it. Avoid it totally. That's the last training we had here in Abuja. To say avoid it because you are winning. Avoid anything that may lead to just be calm, wait for the official. But that does not mean that some of us who are doing this will not know when election. We may not put that in the public domain, but we will know. That's my optimism.
But we've also had people who have told us here that God told them that they were going to win certain elections, and at the end of the day, they lost. So when people say that, yes, we will do this, we will do that, so one wonders what informs that optimism at the end of the day, because politicians can say what they want. They know how some of those things play out and how they handle themselves. But for those who are going into this for probably the first real experience, it will be a different experience and a different scenario, different reality when reality unfolds, whatever their reality is. Don't you think so?
Yes, I think so. But the fact remains that with your hard work, if you have done your analysis well, there are things that you will know. With the feedbacks at this point, 48 hours to election, you should know. We're also comparing notes. People even in APC and PDP are talking and saying, they're afraid though. This place, they're afraid though. They're afraid though.
Of what?
Because of the obedience. Because the rank keeps swelling and swelling. Even in Lagos, in Delta, in Kanu, in Rivers, where you have very, very, very high voters popularly.
But the statement by the Labour Party, by the NLC,
yes,
about asking supporters to go ahead, to ensure that polling unit levels, ensuring that they provide at least 10 ward coordinators and canvassers to not only mobilize but defend the people's votes. But at this point, for the NLC to come up with this, but we've also heard lots of people say, look, not several of people in the Labour, in NLC, already have their preferred candidates. So asking them to do these things at this time may not achieve the desired result, because many of them have already decided way before now what their alliances or their lenient, where they will lean. So by now, it may be a little tricky to ask them to do all of these things.
Well, for us, we know how this came about, because the political commission of both TUC and have been working with us in the third force for about 1 year now. And we have already, agreed on what to do. This is coming late. Maybe it should have come very early. But then, I know that majority of Nigerian workers have made up their mind. There are Nigerian people too who are hungry, who have seen, you want to talk about the fuel price? You want to talk about all kind of mismanagement of the polity? And they have their own party at this time. So we agreed at that level, and that's the political commission, to join Labour Party together.
Who makes up this political commission?
Political commission of the
NLC
are made up of members of the NLC, members of the TUC, and they are veterans. They are veterans, people who have retired from work, active service. They are part of it. So this commission is the largest.
But if NLC,
yes,
Labour Party, had this capacity,
yes,
why didn't they do it when the former NLC president contested on that platform?
Former NLC president contested on which platform?
On Labour Party. Several people have tried Labour Party. They didn't get the kind of results.
No formal.
Adam Shomole left Labour Party and went to APC.
Yes, he went to ACN then. He didn't even contest. He didn't wait to contest on that Labour Party.
So
he
that's
left
the thing.
ACN.
So if they had this capacity, why didn't he wait to contest?
That was the judgment of Adam Oshiomhole. That was his judgment, but some of us felt that Labour could have delivered him in Edo. You were talking of Edo.
But he didn't think Labour could deliver him. Why?
Well, that's his judgment. That's not my judgment. That's not the judgment of the rank and file of the...
But don't you think NLC, his judgment as the president of NLC counts for something?
Well, I wouldn't know what informed that. I wouldn't know what informed that. But that why the workers were enthusiastic, even in Edo, to deliver him, he moved to ACN to contest for governorship, and he won. Well, that's not bad. That's not. But it is the bulk of Nigerian workers in Edo that also delivered that, because they were the foot soldier and they were the engine room of that campaign. Now that this directive has come, clearly come, you will see what the Nigerian workers are doing. They are going to be interfacing now with our people in Labour Party concretely, because there is a clear direction for the commission. And the commission exists in the 36 states and Abuja. The commission, the political commission, is different from NLC.
So do you have the commitment?
All the trade unions.
Do you have the commitment of all of these people that they will vote for the Labour Party candidates?
For sure, that was decided at the ANAC, at the NEC, and at the highest level. This was the decision taken. So the political commission is just implementing a decision that has been taken by the leadership, and they were involved in taking that. All the unions were involved. So I do not expect them to do anything separate from this.
All right, let's bring in my colleagues from Lagos again.
Well, thanks, Chamberlain. I mean, some would say that they can give their commitment, but you have workers, or at least members of labor unions across the country, who also have their party affiliations. I mean, the fact that you're a member of, any employment union does not say you can't be a member of another party. So there'll be questions as to how far-reaching that will be in influencing who they will vote for, since it's assumed that everybody has freedom of affiliation. But another support which you have gotten in recent times, and I see people on social media adding the number of agents for ADC to number of Labour Party agents, and saying that, together you have the most agents. And some will say, well, at those grassroots levels, they also have their own candidates and who they're supporting. So it's really just a mix and match issue. But I'd like you to speak to the fact that the presidential candidate of the ADC came out to say, well, he's still the presidential candidate of the party. So how is that really working out from that endorsement, or collapsing, as the case may be, to the presidential candidate still saying, well, I'm still in charge?
Oh, well, I am not in ADC for instance. And I know that the leadership of the party, the national chairman, hold the haze when it comes to elections like this. And they are the one in charge of what you call agents. They uploaded agents and the rest. So therefore, if our people are permutating that we have higher numbers of, they are right, because it's the national leadership and the party is supreme. And the highest presiding officer of the party is the national chairman, not the presidential candidate. And the national chairman and his team, you know, are with Labour Party. Therefore, there is no cause for alarm. The presidential candidate do not know how they got the house divided. Well, can only pray, because INEC will only recognize whatever is done by the national leadership led by the national chairman. So let us see how it plays out. But for us, we can bank on the support of ADC and other parties that have given us, you know, their support. And that will still give us, you see, more we declare today for us. So we can back on that. But I don't want to go into the internal politics of the African Democratic Congress. But what I know of Nigerian politics is that INEC will only relate with the national chairman. The national chairman in Nigerian politics is like God, small God. There is nothing he can do when it comes to the Nigerian. So we are relying on that the national chairman is with us, and his National Working Committee members are with us, and therefore we cannot be wrong
Mr. Kune,
in our calculation.
the point made by the presidential candidate of the ADC is that, in fact, the national chairman, which he described as an erstwhile chairman, the case has been taken to court, saying that he's been there for 17 years, and according to the constitution of the party, he shouldn't be there. In fact, he said a court made a pronouncement on that. So if his position is being contested up until the court saying that it is unconstitutional, can you still say for sure that you are working with the chairman of the party, which, according to the party's constitution, is said to, well, have overshot his tenure, 17 years?
Well, in Nigerian politics, INEC is the arbiter. Who does INEC recognize? That is the point. Till as we speak, the man who relates with INEC on electoral matter is the same chairman. So you can't fault that. So you can say anything in the media, you can go to court and say, but as far as the judgment of INEC is concerned, with whatever is before them, either legal matters and whatever, the national chairman of ADC is still Chief Raf Okemwosu. And that is the person we are dealing with. So that cannot be a problem here for us. We are dealing with INEC. INEC is dealing with him. INEC will only deal with his nominated agent. So we are good to go. We are good to go. But we wouldn't like to dabble into their internal matter.
I wonder how the Labour Party is, you know, going about this. Are you seeing it simply as a matter which you're profiting from? I mean, profiting from the division in the African Democratic Congress. If that's not the way you're seeing it, are you looking beyond this relationship, this level of relationship, to saying, okay, we can actually form a merger? Because it could go both ways also. There could be a fracture within the Labour Party. You know, if it came to that level, would the Labour Party be happy with your own structure working with other parties? I wonder if you get my point.
I get your point. The members of Labour Party, under the leadership of the national chairman, wants to work with us. We shouldn't say no. They must have seen very good things in what we are doing and what can reclaim or save Nigeria. And that's why they have come. We are not profiting then. As a matter of fact, we did not know about any division. But what we are conscious is that, is it the right person to deal with? Are they the right person? If the national chairman had been the the wrong person, who would not have taken this seriously. What is the right person? Is the recognized chairman. And therefore, we are right to deal with him. There will be merger. There will still be merger. There will be fusion of other into Labour Party. I know that because that was what we designed before adopting Labour Party as the mega party for the 2023 election. But that did not come. But it's playing out now. People are beginning to see the sense in coming together. And so there will be a merger. Well, maybe after the elections, more parties will move in, and then we are ready to accommodate them if they believe in the vision for a new Nigeria. But we are not trying to profit anywhere, but we are dealing with the right we want to do. Who legally can we deal with? And in this case of ADC, we are dealing with the right person, legally recognized by INEC. And so we know that that structure is with us. Until something else is done, then
now, let's take a second look at
course.
the NLC's directive to workers to vote for the Labour Party in the coming elections. You know, isn't that coming a bit late in the day? That's on the one hand, and on the second hand, do you think the NLC is taking into consideration the fact that workers in states of the Federation will have their own party affiliation? Apart from that, perhaps their structure is in the hands of the state governments, and they have probably directives to vote for the ruling party at that level. And as a result, the directive by the NLC is a mere directive on paper, and you may not be able to scoop as much votes as you should from that directive.
I don't think so, because the NLC, the trade union, are the founder of Labour Party. The workers that you are talking about are the refounder from 2001 to 2002. You know, they are the founders. So, and this is just to give them the needed, you know, energy for them to do the right thing. So if they are the founders of the party, they will want to ensure so when they have a very good candidate and very good program at this point, want to ensure that their party wins. As we speak, the certificate of Labour Party is in the custody of the Nigeria Labour Congress. So why wouldn't they want to support their party? Yes, I know there are people who may have, well, some affiliation with some. They are just infinitesimally small. So they cannot really, but the majority of Nigerian workers are going to vote Labour Party. You can take that from me.
All right, so that's going to be very interesting when they go out there to cast their votes. Mr. Olawale Okunoyi is the chairman, contact and mobilization, special duties for Labour Party. He's also the head, grassroots mobilization for Obi-Dati PCC. Though you say you're going to ensure that what's that word you used again? They are mobilized.
Yes, fully capacitated.
So mobilization and shishi, people thought they use them interchangeably.
Mobilize, no, it's different.
That's so different.
It's just when people want to use it on the pedestrian level, that mobilization is, definition is you garner resources and human capital and move them for a goal.
So it's just going to happen this Saturday. That will be the big day. Thank you for coming on, and all the best to you and your party.
Thank you very much.
We will be back in just a moment. Stay with us. It's the second signing of the peace accord by presidential candidates for the February 25 election. And all 18 candidates are here to append their signatures to the document. The chairman of the National Peace Committee, retired General Abdulsalami Abubakar, sets the tone for the proceedings decrying the lack of compliance with an earlier agreement for issue-based campaigns.
On 29 September 2022, the National Peace Committee organized the first signing of the National Peace Accord, committing the candidates to engage on issue-based campaigns. Having signed that, we monitored the compliance of the accord by these politicians. There was some lack of compliance by the major political parties. As a nation, we've got to put a stop to all these.
The signing of the peace accord has become a significant part of Nigeria's electoral preparations since its inception in 2015. 7 years after, the significance of this event remains unshaken and is revealed in the array of dignitaries here, including President Muhammadu Buhari and members of the diplomatic community.
I urge the candidates contesting these elections at all levels to respect the voice, the choice of voters, and accept the results of the elections as announced by INEC, the agency empowered by law to do so. Any aggrieved candidate should resort to the established judicial processes.
We remain fully committed to contributing to making Nigeria's democracy deeper, stronger, and accountable to its people. A democratic, peaceful, stable, and strong Nigeria is in the interest of all of us.
The message is simple but firm. All presidential candidates must do all it takes to make the election peaceful.
The Commission appreciates the work of the National Peace Committee, and we urge political parties and candidates to abide by the letter and spirit of the accord.
In every democracy, peace is a critical factor that breeds political, social, and economic progress. The peace and unity of this country is non-negotiable.
We have fond memories of the graciousness exhibited by both President Jonathan and General Muhammadu Buhari, as he then was, who heeded the appeal of the National Peace Committee and followed faithfully their commitment to accepting not only the results, but also conducting themselves in the course of their campaigns. We watched as this collaboration climaxed with the historic concession made by President Jonathan in 2015. And we expect that our contestants will show the same patriotism and integrity as the process unfolds.
The high point of the event is the signing of the peace accord, and all 18 presidential candidates file out with their party chairmen to sign the peace pact.
Chief Daniel, Zenith Labour Party.
It's barely 3 days to the presidential election, and as candidates sign the peace accord, many hope that they will rein in their supporters and make the exercise peaceful. Welcome back, Mr. Adewale Adebayo, the presidential candidate of the SDP, joins us next. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you. So just before we get to you, I'd like to just point out this again. Now, earlier, we did bring you some information from INEC's site where it indicated that 176,846 polling units are the amount of polling units that are there for you to go and vote. But we didn't subtract that 240. So subtracting 240 from that leaves you with 176,606. So the total number of polling units is actually 176,606. so that we'll put that on record. So I think the commission themselves need to go and then adjust that tweet which is out there so people can know that it is 176,606 polling units, that you have 15,331 contestants. But the image you see right now on the screen just gives you the occupational distribution of registered voters, of which you have 27.8% of them being students. And then beneath that, you've had the youth bulge. The youth population of ages between 18 and 34 make up the 39.65% of the voters who will be, or who are expected to participate this Saturday. Mr. Adebayo, now, of all of this, how much inroad have you made with this voting population?
Well, the election day will show, but we've tried to reach every segment. We've tried to tell our message. We try to speak more to what people need. But the essence of our campaign is actually to talk about the problem that the country has, not just to do a marketing appeal and create some artificial subject matters that will excite people. Our campaign is to actually let people pay attention to critical issues. We need to deal with poverty in this country. We need to handle our security so that we can abolish insecurity. And we need to have a responsible and accountable government. Any other way you want to market your propaganda or market your manifesto, if they're not attached to the reality on ground, the governance will be very difficult. So we focus more on that, and I think every day people are able to understand why we are poor, why we have so many poor people with us, why we have about 33 million people in severe poverty, and why we have lingering insecurity now going to the second decade, and the solution to how to get a government that's accountable, that is responsible, that would tell you the truth and do justice in the country. So that message is what we wanted to clear. And then after that, we started to do segmentation to see the component of which that should appeal to the youth. And given the statistics, which you've just reaffirmed here, that the majority of the voting population is young, we did more of historical analysis, educating the people, because what has happened is that you can equip young people with a voter's card, but you may not equip them with the issues. So they will just look at it the way they will look at any game show, any popularity show. But if you let them understand, which we are trying to do, that elections have consequences.
Right.
You are electing people to govern, and governing has to be based on certain principles.
From that event that occurred yesterday, the peace accord, what is the implication of that for you?
Well, it's a ceremonial occasion in the sense that this is the second time we're signing and the third time that we're gathering together. And as the organizers themselves, the Peace Committee, acknowledge, the major political parties breached every term of the one we signed before. So they didn't keep to it. And so it's a good thing to remind everyone. It's not the only tool you can use. You can also use law enforcement. For example, when Governor Seyi Makinde blocked Makpo Hall 2 days ago, where I was supposed to do my final rally in Oyo State, what would the Peace Committee do about that? They can't do anything about it. They can only say, oh, it's not good. When APC thugs went and beat up my candidates in Ondo State, what would the Peace Committee do? So the law enforcement still has to take place as
now,
we are seeking.
Speaking about those
issues,
yes, because you have people who always argue that those agents or institutions of government or states that carry out those things shouldn't be blamed on the chief executive. Now, if the security agencies wanted to do their jobs, all they need to do is when they get to any of those venues and something untoward is happening, whoever is in charge at that point in time is responsible. Deal with that case as it were, and not as they describe it, pushing the buck.
No, there's no way to be responsible. Like, for example, in the case of, say, Oyo State, it's the Governor Makinde himself and the Commissioner of Police. There's nobody. It's not like talks.
And the Commissioner of Police? The
Commissioner of Police actually say, the governor is wrong, but, I don't want violence, because...
Was he present at the day?
Whoa.
At the venue?
The Commissioner of Police invited us to his office. After they blocked the place, they said, the governor instructed us. It's not fair, but what can I do? It's the governor. I can't do anything to him, and things like that. So it's irresponsible. In the case of all these fake news that they are spreading, that SDP has stepped down for them, which they know is not true, it's a good thing to make an overture. But if people reject your overture based on principle, National Working Committee of SDP says we are running.
Did you reject them, or you told them that, well, we will consider that if you come up with an improved offer?
No. It's not buy and selling. It's about life and death of Nigeria. We told them you are not good for the people. You rule for 16 years as PDP. APC, you rule for 8 years. Both of you are a disaster to the people. So people want an alternative. It will be a betrayal for us to go and join you when people are looking for alternative. So, but Governor Fitchery of Adamawa State, not somebody else, sat in his office, cook up some people who are not from our party, give them the wrong logo, and say SDP has stepped down for him and Atiku. It's an irresponsible thing to do. It's part of, not only annoying, but it's part of the thing you sign.
Did you write him or reach out to him directly to say, this is wrong?
Look, we told them that this is absolutely wrong. Vice President Atiku Abubakar is jittery about losing his home state. He's been talking to our members, say, from this state. And people are saying, well, we don't know.
Losing to who?
Of course, he's going to lose it to us. You will see. You will see that between me and Omar Ado, you will see what we will do in Adamawa State by God's grace. So what I'm saying to you is this. The concern we have is this. In a contest, you are free to use any means to get support for yourself, but don't breach the law. Fake news. For example, Labour Party is tweeting nonsense on air that SDP is working with them. You can desire that SDP should work with you, but since they are not working with you, just go and talk to your voters. What I'm saying generally is that we need to be responsible so that when you speak, people believe what you say. When you sign a contract or an accord, you keep to it. You can use any means. I mean, it's a game, but you can see that in the Social Democratic Party, not one iota, not one line has been breached by us. It doesn't mean that we are still not contesting. But you will never say, oh, somebody in SDP called somebody a criminal name, made the false allegation, spread fake news, beat anybody up, try to bribe anybody. We must learn in seeking power to know that power comes from God only. Secondly, that responsibility in power should start in the process of getting the power. You can't be a thug while contesting and be a gentleman while you're in office. It doesn't work that way.
Lagos.
Well, on the point you made about your planned campaign in Oyo State, I mean, you claimed that the governor actually blocked your use of Makbo Hall. What exactly played out? I mean, because that's a major one, and it's directed at the state executive, who people would expect that would allow everyone campaign freely. So what exactly played out in that Oyo State, which you referenced?
What played out is that we've been doing rallies all over Oyo State, and it's been minor incidents, people coming to beat people wailing vehicle. At a time in Oyo State, the vehicle that I used, we had a very big bus that I usually stay inside. But due to security advice, when we were leaving Gumosho, I didn't use it. But they came and vandalized it. But we didn't want to attach that to the government. We just say, okay, with no evidence. But on this issue of 2 days ago, we were negotiating with the police and the law enforcement for the use of Makbo Hall to do it. They kept changing the date. Oh, the government wants to use this date. So it wasn't even the date that we wanted to use that eventually they settled on. Now, on that day, the night before, we were with the police, DSS, clearance, everything. Then as our people were gathering there, they blocked the place. Then the commissioner of police invited the state chairman and the other executive to say, I'm sorry. The governor is blocking you from using the place. It's your right to use the place, but if you go there now, there'll be so much chaos. And people are asking, you are the police, for God's sake. Why don't you tell the Inspector General of Police, or you use your authority? It wouldn't budge. You will say, okay, maybe you use the next day. I will go and talk to the governor. So we address the press on the matter. And those are the things that I'm saying. Is the commissioner of police is still there now. You can call him and interview him. We address the press on it. And there are so many acts of irresponsibility on the part of Governor Makinde, pulling our posters down. But all those things, we couldn't attribute them to him directly. He has one person called Auxiliary, which is like a professional thug, do all of this. But we said, since we have not caught him on tape, instructing Auxiliary to go and destroy our billboard, it would be irresponsible for us to say he's the one. But now the commissioner of police used his mouth to say, the governor said, you can't use the place. We said, why? Where is his power to say so? He said, well, I don't want, he's really very serious about it, and serious violence will occur, I can't guarantee your safety. So please. So this is the situation.
Well,
This Governor Fincheri that I talked about, I reported him earlier to the Peace Committee in a positive way. Because when I went to contest to campaign in Adamawa State, he gave us Ribadu Square. And he gave us protection. And I went and paid a courtesy call on him in the governor's house, governor's office, to thank him. And I sympathized with him over the flood, and I thanked him. I made some donation there for the flood victim. And when I reported, when we met with the Peace Committee, I pointed out that Governor Fincheri is one of those governors that you can go to his state and you have no problem. Same thing with Dapo Abiodun of the APC in Ogun State. I did rally there, no incident, no problem. So it is not that we are out to insult anyone or accuse anyone. We need to understand that if you want to be president of Nigeria, governor, senator, you have to first be a responsible citizen. Number one, you have to be law-abiding. And you have to be sensible in the way you handle public affairs. That's all. It's not that I'm out to indict them. Labour, I wasn't talking about them before. They look like nice people. We're working in our own parallel way. But when they started tweeting falsehood that the SDP has merged with them and all those fake news like that, we realized they too have got desperate. So this is not good. That's the point I'm making. There are many people from the Labour Party who have joined us. We're not making noise about that.
Right. I mean,
yes.
Some would say that it's your choice, really. Some choose to, some others don't choose to. But, I mean, the use of the Makwa Hall, which you say that the commissioner actually said those words, and then the pulling down of your campaign posters, the attacks, which you said you've been under, I mean, which you now attribute to the governor, are two different things. I mean, one, you say you have proof that the commissioner said, the governor said you shouldn't use that hall, but you still don't have proof, which you have not even spoken about. Perhaps you do have it, that the governor is responsible for, the pulling down of your campaign materials, the attacks on you. You've not given that proof yet.
Clarify something clearly. Number one, I'm a responsible person and I only speak what I know. All those things that people attributed to the governor, we didn't accuse him of it because we have no direct evidence. I'm a lawyer, for God's sake, even if I'm running for president now. So I need to be responsible. So what I'm saying is that those things are happening within the state. And first, the governor has a duty to see that everybody is in good order and safety in the state. But leave that aside. That one, we didn't accuse him of it. But the one, you cannot tell me that the commissioner of police doesn't know what he's saying. And we went to address the press on it immediately. We called the entire press over it. What I'm saying, and it's not that I want to single out and pillory Governor Makinde. Governor Wike of Rivers is even worse in that respect. I'm saying generally is that the peace accord, which we are now signing, is being made to look like an empty ceremony when the people responsible for complying with it don't comply. It's not that I came on channels this morning intent to attack these people. I just want to point out that if we want to be a responsible society and we want to be taken seriously, for a country like Nigeria, giant of Africa, to call Zambia, Kenya, all those countries to come and witness our signing, that's, to start with, that's below our dignity. To start with, we're supposed to be a shining example. We're not a banana republic. So to call foreigners to come and help us sign this accord, we should look at it. Do Americans sign it? The British sign it? The French, do they come people to come and sign? To me, I felt personally below my dignity yesterday signing peace accord because I was the United Nations and ECOWAS commissioner in Liberia after the war. We were the ones trying to settle the country together and do peace and reconciliation. I felt like a post-war kind of sensibility is what I had. I wasn't too happy to be there.
What would you have preferred?
I would have preferred a dignified system within Nigeria where we can keep our dignity here. You know, I know Father Bishop Kuka means well by doing it because they learned from what happened in Kenya and they saw that politicians are creating tension in the country and they needed to use this process. And in 2015, when President Goodluck Jonathan called President Buhari now, it was a good thing that he averted the trouble with Rubebe and all the rest about to start. But the point I'm making is that we should even not be in that process. If we want to be responsible, as an example of the largest black democracy in the world, we should learn a process where public officials behave responsibly. I've mentioned on many occasions those who behave well. When I go to Kano, Ganduje doesn't disturb me. So even though it's the APC, the same party as the governor who's troubling us elsewhere, But when you go to Kano, you can go 100 times. Nobody's going to disturb you. You can do your campaign everywhere. So there are good examples and there are bad examples. All I'm saying is that all of us should use that good example as a minimum.
So as we wind down and as people go out there to vote on Saturday,
yes,
what would you like them to have at the back of their minds?
Well, what I want Nigerians to have at the back of their mind is that every day the government is powerful. And we say the government is misusing the power. There's only one day in which the voter is powerful, on election day. And the voter should not abuse the power of the vote. They should not sell the vote. They should not vote according to religion or ethnicity. They should not vote based on sentiment. They should vote on issues, knowing that immediately you vote, you are instituting a government under which you will be for 4 years, and the implication of what the government does will outlast even your lifetime. So be responsible about it. If you haven't studied the issue, go back and review all the interview, review everything. Make sure that when you cast that your vote, you can say, I've invested in an attempt to kill poverty in this country, in an attempt to eradicate corruption in this country, in an attempt to eradicate insecurity. So you can say, yeah, I voted accordingly. So that is what I advise the voters. It's not a popularity contest. It's not an attempt to get at your neighbor. The person who is arguing with you, oh, I will defeat your candidate, you will defeat mine. Suspend all of that. Think about it. As I'm going to this solemn box to put my finger, I am actually signing in favor of one tendency or the other. And am I signing a future in which my children can live in peace in this country, have sound education, have access to health care? Am I going to live in a country where I'm secure, I can travel around the country without issues? I can now have an economy that can support me. Maybe me or my children, all of us, we're not going to be thinking how to run away from this country. And we will vote a government that every day we say, thank God for this government. We will not be cursing out the person who use our own hand to vote.
All right, Mr. Adewale Adebayo is the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party. Thank you for coming on and all the best.
Thank you very much, and God bless Nigeria. Remember SDP.
Okay, just before we go, Ugonna Chidebere, we're looking at your message. You're talking about your email about alleged voter suppression. You say that there is a threat of voter intimidation and suppression in the Southeast orchestrated by non-state actors who are, you say, going around pasting threat posters everywhere. What are the security agencies doing to ensure that these monsters are apprehended, he asks?
Good question there, and I hope that's answered. This is from Vitalis Najeze. Hope I got your name correctly. And he says, good to hear that the police and other security agencies have made massive mobilizations, but I advise that there should be more at security-threatened areas, such as Egede Junction, Ishielu local government area of Ebonyi State, where there have been series of attacks. May God save this country.
Well, this next one from Dhaka says, vote with Nigeria in mind. There is a nationwide cry for a new Nigeria, and this desire raises some fundamental questions. Well, those are the questions. What is Nigeria? Are we willing to create the foundational systems or systems that will make Nigeria? What kind of institutions are we ready to establish for the smooth running of the systems that will give visible expression of Nigeria? Goes on to say, on this premise, let us make our decisions on who to vote for with our hearts fixed on Nigeria and Nigerians. And I mean, it's a very comprehensive mail, but thank you so much for that one. Ends by saying it is all about Nigeria and Nigerians.
Indeed, very much so. That is the show today, the 2023 verdict. So we've got a special for you coming up tomorrow. But until then, we just want to say a very good morning to you all. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
Remember, your vote is your power. Use it wisely. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
So after you've selected who to vote for, go dust your PVC, right? And get ready for D-Day. We'll be with you to ensure that you get all of the information you need. I'm Kayode Okikelu. Goodbye.